Good evening and welcome to the planning board meeting of Tuesday, what month are we in? March 20th. These meetings are recorded. I'll take a motion on the minutes. Motion by John, seconded by Lena. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, opposed, unanimous. There are no 81Ps. Line item number 3, the conditional approval contract was just received today, so we won't, both Larry and Mike have not had an opportunity to review it, so that will push back to the meeting in April. I have a request for grant of extension for the definitive subdivision for Ariana Estates, located on Fruit Street. The applicant is requesting an extension till April 17th. And I have a motion on the extension. Motion by Lena, seconded by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing not. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. We have an amended site plan for 177 Central Street. Is that you, sir? The applicant requests amended site plan approval to add vehicle sales on the subject property. This will be in addition to the existing use as a truck service and repair shop for the repair of truck-mounted hydraulic equipment that had received ZBA special permit approval on 3/9/17. ZBA approved the vehicle sales special permit on 3/8/18. See attached ZBA decision. The applicant proposes to add the sale and display of hydraulic trucks on the subject property. No building additions are being proposed, and the paved areas will remain unchanged. The paved areas will, however, be restriped to accommodate display areas for the trucks. All other applicable zoning and site plan requirements appear to be met. From the town engineer, Mike has no concerns and requests approval. There's also a copy of the decision from the ZBA. The water company sees no conflict or issues. The fire department also sees no changes or requests no changes for the amended site plan. The highway department has reviewed the site plan and find it to be satisfactory. With that, it's all yours, sir.
Okay. For the record, George Michael, Gary and Hellman. The site is 177 Central Street. I was already in front of the board, but just to refresh what we have. It is an existing site, has 2 buildings, 1 office building, 1 larger structure, warehouse type structure where the repair is done. And this is where the business is located, the business of the applicant. It currently repairs hydraulic equipment. He would like to obtain the right to sell it, and that's why we applied in front of you and in front of ZBA. His application was approved. 3 locations where the sale exhibits would be placed, and he would also update his dumpster, and he will restripe the area to obtain better parking options. He's also proposing 2 signs, one over here, one over here. This is how the signs will look. And nothing else is changing on the site.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
We went over this, the last one, the zoning board put the dumpster pad, so I'll make a motion that we approve the site plan, amended site plan.
Motion by Babe to approve the amended site plan. Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll
Seconded
second
by
it.
Lena. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing not, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, sir. It is now 7:05. Karen, if you don't mind, please.
Application of Grayson Builders LLC for approval of Labrador Estates definitive plan, a 4-lot residential subdivision located on an 11-acre parcel off Central Street. Assessors map 54, block 0, lot 5, RC zone.
Is that you, sir?
Got some reduced copies. My name's Dan Hazen. I'm with Gary and Halnon. I'm here representing Grayson Builders.
You just hand me your business card. I'll give it to Karen, please.
Just want to check out.
Thank you, sir.
There's a few things that,
We asked about this, site distance, like that.
Is this your first time down here?
This town, yeah.
The applicant is proposing a 4-lot residential subdivision, including 1 new street. The property consists of approximately 10.8 acres located south of Central Street. The preliminary plan was known as Central Street, submitted in October of last year. Larry has reviewed the plan dated 1/29/18 and found it to be generally consistent with the preliminary plan. In light of the comments noted in the town engineer's report, Larry is recommending the application be continued to the April 17th meeting. Mike, I'll let you address your own letter, since I see that you have 10 points of concern. So, Mike, if you don't mind.
sure. Item number 1 is in reference to soil testing in the proposed detention basin area. That's required, so that still needs to be done. Item number 2 is in reference to site distance at the proposed roadway intersecting with Central Street. Plan shows 225 feet as a site distance looking westerly, and that's right at the minimum threshold, or getting towards the minimum threshold. And the plan shows items that need to be done, so it's to accomplish the 225 feet, so. In my letter, I suggest that maybe a traffic engineer document that and certify that the site distance is adequate at this new intersection here.
Okay?
Items, let's see, 3 and 4, those are pretty minor. It just deals with stamping it from a surveyor, some dimensions on the variable width, vertical datum. Most of these things, I think we can just work through and get figured out and take care of. Item number 6 talks about the off-site improvements heading easterly down Central Street to run a water line to this project. So this project, if I remember correctly, has to run a water line, I don't know, 600 feet or so. So I'm just asking for some additional existing survey down Central Street so we know the edge of pavement and we know what we're working with before the road gets torn up to install the water line. Let's see, 7 deals with the proposed sidewalk is shown right up against the curbing. I believe the town cross-section typically shows a 3-foot grass strip between the edge of the curb and the edge of the sidewalk. Let's see, 8 is just some details. 9 deals with erosion control, which are just some pretty generic notes that need to be added. And the drainage calculations just talks about some of the grading, and I think we can work through that.
Thank you, Mike. Additionally, from the highway surveyor, he's recommending the snow dump area in the middle of the cul-de-sac be made into a stormwater rain garden. The intent of the revising the subdivision rules and regulations was to incorporate vegetated storm water runoff areas to comply with the MS4 permit regulations. From the fire department has no objections to the plan as submitted. I request hydrants to be installed and operable prior to combustible construction. Metal hydrant markers, flags are required for each hydrant. Please contact him if you have any questions. With that, sir, that concludes the letters, so feel free to give your presentation.
Property is located off Central Street. It's approximately, as it was mentioned, 11 acres. There's 4 lots on here. It's accessed by about a 480-foot cul-de-sac, 28 feet wide. There's gonna be, drainage is handled by a catch basin, a manhole system into a detention pond, which discharges out into this wetland and off-site. It's designed to attenuate the 2, the 10, the 25, and the 100-year storm. There's gonna be on-site septic systems. The town water's gonna have to be extended down from Beaver Street, down Central Street, and extended to the end. There's hydrants proposed at the beginning, at the end. Again, site distance, this was a comment that was mentioned. We have a letter from TEPP, TEP LLC, that was submitted, I believe, during the preliminary stages, that address that the site distance, now this is posted at 25-mile-an-hour road, I believe. I realize people travel it a lot faster, but with the 225-foot, it handles up to a 30-mile-an-hour road. With the grade that's coming up, there's a discount on the site distance, so to speak, so that this provides for up to 35 miles an hour site distance, looking to the left. To the right, we have over 400 feet. I spoke to the traffic engineer. They're going to give me an updated memo that references the definitive plans, so hopefully that will address one of the comments through the engineering department. One of the questions that I had for the board was this snow storage area. I realize it just came up today that the highway surveyor would like it to be a depression, as in a rain garden. What is the feeling of the board on something like that, or through DPW, as opposed to granite curbing and having it raised?
Sure, Larry.
Refresh your memory, if you like, when we made that amendment, one of the concerns we brought up specifically was to not have it a depressed area, to not have it an area that collects water and be a rain garden. So the intention, as I recall it, was that it was a vegetated area, but it wasn't supposed to be a depression. It was supposed to be elevated slightly, so anything that's not absorbed into the unpaved donut hole would then run out onto the pavement and out to the catch basins. So I'm not sure if Scott recalled that or not, but I think there's going to be a problem, especially in our climate, of collecting water in the middle of a road.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure of the value if you're going directly to a detention basin anyways.
Right.
There is no
Treat
real
it one way
value.
or another.
There is no value if it goes directly into a detention basin, but.
But it shouldn't be snow storage either, so.
No.
As the town would require this, though? This, okay.
Yeah, that's why we amended the subdivision regulations.
Okay. Do you want vertical granite curbing around the inside here, or would you want sloped granite curbing? I realize that this is another one of Mr. Dean's comments was that we had proposed sloped. I'm gonna change that to vertical granite. But if you have vertical granite on the inside for larger vehicles, such as tower trucks for like fire department, when they take that corner, if their rear tires ride up on it, it could slice the tires. If it's sloped, they can ride up and over it.
The radiuses should be such that they can make that turn anyways, I believe.
Right, but if you have snowbanks on the side, things like that, it gets shortened up. I'm not arguing whether or not it would be vertical
Chances
or,
are there's gonna be snow on the curb,
Okay.
and they're not gonna be able to make the turn.
so we'll leave it vertical then.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. Just to go through Mr. Dean's comments, we're gonna be doing soil testing in the detention pond this week. Again, I mentioned that the site distance, I will have a updated letter from the traffic engineer from TEP LLC certifying that the site distance, once once this is all graded and the trees are cut, it will be, this is all lawn, this is all lawn, it'll open it up considerably. It's hard to visualize right now when you're out there, but in time it will, you know, the plans will be stamped by a professional land surveyor and we'll reference the datum. We're going to slide the sidewalk over. What is the distance between the curb and the sidewalk? 3 feet? 3? Hmm?
I thought it was 5.
5 feet?
Grass
Okay.
strip?
I thought it was 3,
I
but.
thought the grass strip was 3.
The sidewalk would be 5?
No, the sidewalk's 5.
Yeah, no, he's talking about the grass
Grass
strip.
strip.
Yeah, I know the grass strip, I thought the grass strip was,
3.
okay, well, we'll verify.
We'll have to verify that.
It's in the standard cross-sections and
Yeah.
regulations.
And we will be doing the survey off-site to get existing conditions for the proposed water line that's gonna be run down, so that we'll know how wide the road has to be when we replace it. And
The standard cost.
again, we'll work through the drainage calculations with DPW, so,
Highway Department.
or highway.
Thank you, sir.
We
Before I
don't
open
have
up
a
to,
letter. I don't find the TEP letter in the preliminary, so if you could provide the prior letter.
Okay, yes, it will.
Before I open up to the public, is there any questions from the board?
I just had a couple comments and, well, I guess things, seeing how I believe those are town trees that are being taken down, probably should have the, tree warden take a look at them.
Yes.
As part of that, and then obviously, based on the line that you have, that does become somewhat problematic. I mean, those trees really need to come down in order for you to have that sight distance, so we need to make sure that he's okay with that. And I don't, you know, if we trim them 5 years from now, they're gonna be back in the way again, so they really need to be down in order to provide the, sight distance. And then, you know, Mike, just to reinforce Mike's, with the water line, I think that's important, just because we're gonna be going in, and as part of that work, we could be doing some, you know, you could be fixing some of the Central Street a little bit as part of that, just because you're doing work, so we'd like to see what the extent of work is on Central Street as you put the water line in, so we need to have that, that survey done.
Yes.
Also, Joe, the adjacent property where some of the trees are, and removing the trees may affect the wall that the prior owner had built out as a curb in the public right-of-way. If any of that changes, there may need to be grading done in that area, so they probably want to investigate grading easement of some sort from the abutter to be able to actually accomplish the work in a safe manner.
Yeah, I mean, they're, I would guess that would show up as part of a section view through there that would actually show the elevation from the
Right.
point of stoppage to the site distance point. So if that's included in the set of plans, that would tell what the grading needs to be or not through the line of sight. That was it.
That's it. Any other questions from the board? Seeing that this is a public hearing, is there anyone from the public who has questions or comments regarding this subdivision? No one? Okay.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes, sir, okay.
You're talking about in front of my house, right, the trees there?
Yes,
Sir,
that's
you're
what I
gonna,
just-
if,
that's what I just mentioned.
if you don't mind, if you could just come up, if you can identify yourself by name and address, please,
Yeah, my name is Jose Gonçalves. I live on 397 Central Street.
right here. You're right aside of this, sir.
Yeah, I'm right, that's where they're talking about the trees, you know, with a wall, that's right.
That's okay. Yes, sir.
No, I just wanna know if they're gonna, you know, I was here this morning, part of the Mike, right?
Yep.
And, you know, this gentleman. right here,
Larry, yep.
And I, you know, I just wanna know if they're gonna put the wall back, or if they're gonna put in a curb here, because my property is too high. As soon as they go in 4 feet, the property's gonna get higher.
Sure.
And I just wanna know what they're gonna do.
Well, I think Joe had asked for a plan that's showing the details as he comes down to achieve his 225 foot of sight distance. So I can't answer your question right now, but seeing that this is going to be continued to the 17th of April, I'm assuming at that point, the engineer may be able to produce information that should answer your question.
Yeah, that's fair.
Again, if I could answer it, I would.
Yeah, but I just want to.
They gotta build a walk back.
Well, that's his concern.
Yeah, but they got it.
It's a very honest question, sir, and I just wish I could answer it, but regrettably, tonight I cannot. But I believe, well, I know that this is going to get continued to April 17th. So I would encourage you to come back, April 17th, and hopefully your question, and then again, if you have additional ones, will then be answered. Sound okay?
But right now, they have no rights to enter his property and regrade it, so they
Well, I'm
need to
not
work
asking him
with
to do anything. What I'm asking him to do is identify, you
Yeah,
know,
if he can't get the site distance and he doesn't have any rights, he doesn't have a
So
subdivision.
he needs to approve any
But he needs to-
area or any,
And
If
another
there-
thing,
easements.
and another thing, one of the trees, I think 95% of the trees on my property, I don't know, one of the trees, I was measuring it, measuring today, I guess it's 4 feet from the road to my property.
and again, sir, if it'd be a heck of a lot easier for us to know that, but what Larry just said was, determining on what information they come back, it's possible that they may need some sort of easement from you, which, by all rights, it's entirely up to you whether you grant an easement or not. So I just don't have the information, and I'm not advising you one way or the other. I'm just simply saying that we're gonna have to wait and see what he comes back with, and hopefully that will answer some of your questions. Then again, it may
Slip through.
cause additional questions, I really don't know at this point.
Central Street we've done.
And again, I would strongly encourage you to come back
Just,
the 17th.
just looking at this plan right here, and I know the retaining wall that you're speaking of, it looks like it's actually about 10 feet out into the right-of-way from the edge of the property. So those trees and a lot of those, there's some of the trees that are on your property, but it also looks like some of them are out inside.
Yeah,
of
I'm
the
only
right-of-way.
talking about 2 trees, I know one's in the town property, but the other
Okay.
one I measure like 4 feet in.
It may be worth your while to
It's like
stake his front
95%
property
of
line
my
so you know
property.
where it is and you can explain it to him.
Okay.
Because
This is all
it's
what I
conceivable,
explained to you
it's
this morning.
conceivable that,
There's no new information here tonight. So if they can stake it out so you know exactly where the property line is, as it's shown on that plan, you'll discover that what they're talking about working on is primarily not on your land at all.
Yeah, right,
I just don't know, we just don't know that.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Just come on up, sir. Again, identify your name and
Rowan
address.
Benjamin, 73A Beaver Street.
Roman,
Rowan Benjamin,
Rowan Benjamin, 70,
3A Beaver Street.
thank you.
Just wondering, is any sort of surveys that are done about potential shelf if they're, I don't know if they're doing blasting or whatever they're doing to clear the area, how that might affect people that aren't a well water?
I don't know the level of blasting that they're doing. Again, the engineer may or may not know. I don't know. I can't answer that. I can only generally answer it this way. Usually, any degree of blasting that they do, the neighbors are then generally alerted, usually by certified mail, and they are soliciting to come to your house to do a pre-blast survey, in which, again, generically speaking, we'll look at your foundation, things of that magnitude, and they do so because obviously, if after the blasting occurs, there's a problem to your home, without the survey, then theoretically, they could be liable. So that's why they generally do a pre-blast survey. But again, I can't speak to the slope or to the scope of any type of blasting that they anticipate at this point.
Okay, last question. You mentioned to the prior gentleman that, if an easement was required, he had the choice to grant it or not. Is that?
It depends on a grading easement and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Determined solely on his property. If there's some portions of the roadway that is part of a town easement, that's different. So again, I can't speak to exactly what type of easement, if any, that they're going to be looking at, because we don't know, and they're gonna come back, and they're gonna, survey, that piece of property to ensure that he has a sight line. So,
I see.
All right.
Thank you.
anytime. Anyone else? Hearing not. What's the pleasure of the board?
I move we continue until the April 17th meeting.
Motion by John to continue the meeting to April 17th. Do I have a second on the motion? Seconded by Joe. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, when he comes back, I'd like to have full-size, the
Plans?
lot plans for the two lots, just so, looking at this, you really can't see too much.
Okay.
If you could turn the plan upside down, it'd be much better too, but.
We have a bylaw for that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing not. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. See you on the 17th again. For those in the audience that have anything or would like additional questions answered, this meeting will then be brought up again on April 17th. Assume the 7:01, 7:02 time start, so 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. Okay? Thank you so much. Continuing right along.
You want these back? Do you want to take these back?
Sir, would you like these back?
Yeah, I'll keep one set, since they didn't
Thank you, sir.
bother to give us any.
I have a waiver of site plan 87 South Main Street.
He's done, isn't he? He's done, isn't he?
No, I'm good right now.
Yeah, okay.
The applicant requests amended site plan approval to add vehicle sales on the subject property.
You're all set.
This will be in addition to the existing use as an auto repair shop. The ZBA approved the vehicle sales permit on 9/14/17. The applicant proposes to add the sale and display used vehicle on the subject property. No building additions are being proposed, and the paved areas will remain unchanged. All other applicable zoning and site plan requirements appear to be met. Therefore, Larry is recommending approval. From the town engineer, following a site inspection, there has been a white vinyl fence installed along the northerly property line, and vehicles in front of the building where parked is in an orderly fashion. Mike is approving the waiver of site plan. From the highway department, he sees everything as satisfactory. Milford Water Company sees no conflict. And with that, Mr. Pettinari, it's all yours.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Ernie Pettinari, I'm over here in Milford. I've represented Mark Rizzoli, the president and treasurer of Make Park Corporation for many years. With me tonight is Tony Claro, who works with Mark and who is the primary person who's running Maya's Motors at this site. Mark sends his apologies, but I think you know Mark is also a police officer in the town of Hopedale, and they're away at mandatory training this week at the academy. Where we are with respect to 87 South Main Street is, we filed this application for site plan waiver after we had been to the zoning board and to the Board of Selectmen. We had presented our case to both of those boards. This is a piece of property that has been an automotive service facility for all of my lifetime, at least. I remember it from when I was a kid. It also has kind of a storied history. There had been problems there, there had been zoning violations, license questions, et cetera, for many, many years. Makepar bought this property several months before we made these applications. They began a fairly aggressive cleanup of the property. One of the things that I think Mike's letter referenced is that there's been a new fence installed. Tony has been working very, very hard with all of the neighbors in the area to rebuild the relationships with the people there, many of whom had had unpleasant experiences with a prior owner there many years ago. The reason that we're here tonight seeking this waiver, though, is, I think, best put in, as Larry put it in his letter. This is basically a cleaned-up version of what was there for many years. They've broadened a little bit of the sightlines by cleaning up some of the debris. They've fenced in the area, and they've painted and fixed and done an awful lot of things and put an awful lot of effort, time, and money into the site. The zoning board felt that that was a reasonable extension of the use. The selectmen, when asked for the permit to have 6 used vehicles licensed for sale there, they thought the same thing. So we're here tonight to close the loop, to ask this board to waive the requirement of the site plan. There are no changes on the site. The building is a 1.5-story building of approximately 1,500 square feet, and I think the site is fairly well known to everybody that's here.
Can you just answer the question, Ernie? You said that, and I saw by the zoning decision, it's 6 unregistered cars. Do you know what the permit through the selectmen was previous, or was it always 6?
It was never.
Okay.
In recent history, there was not a license. There had been licensed many, many years ago, and I think it was a new car dealership many, many years ago. But I don't have any evidence other than my memory about that. But there was not an existing Class 2 license on this property
Okay.
under the prior owner,
Okay.
which is why it necessitated coming in and saying to the zoning board, this is a change as
Okay.
opposed to just an extension.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I think the cleaning it up and everything, the Rossolis have always cleaned up all the property they own. They make it look good. Science Plus had come in next door. They did a nice job and made it look good there. I think it'll be a
No, I think to your
plus to
point,
the,
Dave,
definitely a plus to the neighborhood.
I definitely think that visually it has certainly improved over the last several months.
And the fact that they approached the neighbors and talked with them, I
I'm
think
assuming that's probably why the fence went
They're so
up.
close. They're really close.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion, we
Waive the site plan?
approve the amended site plan.
Motion by Babe to approve the amended site plan, seconded by Lena. Any further discussion? Hearing not. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then finally,
Have a good evening.
Mr. Pettinari, have a good night. Mr. Fernandez, would like to briefly mention a proposed bylaw that will be on our agenda.
Thank you.
April 17th?
Congratulations.
On April 17th. So, John?
Thank you, and that's all I have to say. No, I appreciate the opportunity to speak just for a few minutes. I've represented Nikki Caparis in the past, who owns the Dairy Queen up on 190 West Street in Milford. And she's interested and has been interested in doing a solar project, because as you can imagine, they do quite a bit of, use quite a bit of power up there to power that operation that they have. And was actually moving forward with some thoughts and designs, and contacted me about some contracting work, and I said, well, what's the status of doing this? And I looked and said, it's not allowed use in the CC district. And so we saw that there was a town meeting warrant closing, and there wasn't much time, so we put a proposal in. Don't need to be surprised in the last minute with this. I just want you to understand this just came to our attention that she'd like to move forward. And of course, there's an urgency to this because of the way the SMART program is working, and when the regulations will be finished later this year, and being able to take advantage of that. So we wanted to move forward. The proposal that we brought before you very simply suggests allowing solar in the CC district, much like in the OR, I believe it's the OR district, or the DP district, I forget which, that allows it by special permit. It's the OR district, I believe, that allows it by special permit. And when you look at where the CC district runs, particularly from where she is, it actually merges down into that OR district, and there's similarities to the type of properties that are in there. And I can understand when this was first done, I might not want to have been the first town in Massachusetts to say, you know, we're going to just allow this everywhere in town. But I think we've seen it mature, even to the point of how these carports are first work. I mean, you see the one over at REI, you know, that was one of the first ones that was done in Massachusetts. They really didn't have the guttering down, and how the water would drip off of it. And today, that's all been much more sophisticatedly handled. And for a place like that, that's a summer place, carporting would actually provide some, shade for people to go up and rest there. So
I just wanted to bring that to your attention. There'll be a public hearing in April on it. If there's any, feedback that you guys wanted to give today, I'd be happy to try and, consider that and incorporate it into a presentation for the 17th. This isn't like a zoning board hearing where, you don't have the opportunity to discuss it in advance. It's perfectly legitimate to do that. So, but I'm not pushing for that discussion tonight, but if there is any feedback, I'm open.
It's just on the roof.
No, actually, there was,
Is it
she
standalone?
wants to do the carporting.
Oh, she does.
Yeah, not on every row of cars,
Oh,
of
okay.
lanes up there, but enough to generate the kind of power that she would be looking for to offset her needs, which is greater than your minor project trigger, which is, up to 25, which is not a very significant
The
project.
roof wouldn't handle it?
She doesn't want to go up on the roof, and the way the program is designed,
The problem with solar is it's forever changing. In order for you to get the maximum credits back, they keep, and this is always an initiative through the state, but it's really driven, for lack of better words, by energy providers. And the only way for you now to get higher incentives is to do what she's requesting. If you do roof mounted, I don't think that she'll have the ability to pay off her investment until probably the solar is exceeded its expectancy.
or the sun may be burning out.
Correct, so, this is the problem, nothing ever stays. I believe she gets an extra 5 or 10 points
It's 4 to 6.
for doing exactly what she's proposing. So, I mean, obviously, I think the way John has written, it's through special permit, obviously, we know every CC isn't gonna qualify for such an incentive. So I think being special permit is not the worst thing imaginable. And also, based on the size that she's requesting, she still would have to come back for site plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of
I like to
process
see the
go through
size.
both of this. Yeah, there's both.
And you
We'd
can
be back
issue
to
the special permit.
Right.
And the special permit authorities, obviously, that's not the ZBA.
Right.
And we know that, yes, in the setup for special permit, we know that this isn't the time to come in with a project and lay it all out and say, because you're really not judging this one project. And it would be unfair to put you in
Right.
that position. You're judging the entire district and the impact on the district. And if it's allowed, then we'd be back with the project. Because even going through the cost of, significant design of a final project is not necessarily something we would spend before town meeting anyway. And making sure that we've got the right to do this, because it is a significant investment to go through, to put this on. And truthfully, even if the roof was the better thing, it's a smaller building, she's got a lot of her
Infrastructure.
on the top
On
of the
top of the
building.
roof, yeah.
And it isn't necessarily the location.
Being a
for her.
business, she would have.
Yeah, and she's very sensitive to, in her particular project, she would be very sensitive to what she considers the Dairy Queen, design, and not wanting to compromise the look of that. for
Right.
people. So that's one of the reasons she's even said, I don't want anything right against the building where I have parking, because I don't want to take away from my
Perfect.
particular building.
Yeah.
So, I think, again, I wanted to be respectful to come in and explain why you're seeing this so
Oh, okay.
suddenly, and it was, just the way this was playing out, and the way the program is working. Believe me, once this hits, once the final regulations are done, these things are gonna get eaten up very quickly, these opportunities to participate.
And if I may, John, just, if, the other thing, just to keep note of, in terms of the CC, although I've not seen exactly what her proposal is,
Right.
I can tell you from my own experiences with solar, hers could easily be in the $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 for her to do what she's trying to do. So when we look at the CC, we be mindful that not everyone within the CC is gonna, A, have the room, and B, have the ability to put such
Right.
a sizable amount. So again, I think we've always been pro-solar, to look at the CC as another allowable district, but with special permit, I don't think is the worst thing imaginable, so.
I like to see how it all looks.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but it is a significant investment, that's for certain.
I would say,
Yeah, so, anyway, all right, if there's no further feedback.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Good to see you, John.
And you as well.
Additionally,
Thank you.
from the Office of Ricky Villani, we also have a proposed zoning amendment which,
It's for the over 55 and the
it's gonna be for, I guess, allowable residential use in downtown. I'm not really sure exactly what what.
CA and CB.
Okay,
it's
CA
over
and CB.
55
School.
And over,
residential.
This is the school.
I know it's just limited to that, that's why I just wanted to make
Whole zone.
sure. It's gonna be CACB and over 55 residential use.
By planning board special permit.
So, again, that will also be, I guess, on the agenda for April 17th.
Yeah, because of the way both of those were filed, I'll be setting the hearings, the zoning public hearing for you guys on the 17th as well. So we're going to have the two continued public hearings. We're going to have the two zoning public hearings. We're going to have the other item that's on the desk, initial review of the 40B that was just filed, and you have the packet.
Larry, my only suggestion to you, because at that point,
A little homework here.
Joe will be chair, so just get with him and see how he wants the agenda to be orientated, please.
Yeah, the 40B,
Like I said, I won't be chair at that point, so even though it's,
and Karen won't be at that meeting either.
I'm just saying, so just discuss with Joe how he wants
Yeah.
the agenda to read. Okay? Do we have anything else?
Nope, we're good.
Take a motion by John, seconded by Babe to adjourn. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing not, all in favor, opposed,
Aye.
unanimous.
Good night.
Thank you and have a good night.